Well, hello and welcome to this week's episode here on the Resto Saga Classic Car Restoration YouTube channel. And this week, as I'm sure you've guessed, we're back at the Toylander 1 build. From looking behind me here, you can see there's been some good progress, and this is the progress I hope to cover in this video. We've had some delivery of parts. We're going to look at how the windscreen hinges are made, although those will be made in a future episode. We've got the delivery of the steering components and also the braking components and how I'm going to fit them onto the Toylander. So without any further ado, let's get stuck into working on the Toylander 1. And first things first, we are back at the front axle. And this time we're sorting out the steering, which is exactly where I left off last time. So this is the solution that is suggested by Toylander themselves in the manual, that you put a piece of wood across the two steering sort of stub axles with a little spacer piece, then clamp it all up so you have a straight edge. Therefore, the two stub axles remain in line, and then you can set the steering rods. Now, these steering rods are not like you would find on a car, in that the two ends are oppositely threaded. And on the car, then you can twist the steering rod, which moves either the steering yokes further apart or closer together. This is just a threaded bar, so they're both right-handed threads. So all you do by twisting it is move the bar, which isn't ideal, but I suppose it's probably difficult to thread it and probably a higher production cost, and at the end of the day it's a child's toy. So this solution just works as well. So now that it's all clamped up, that hole is largely aligned, and that side there is going to be left loose because there's going to be another steering bar, shorter, runs from the steering column, which will come out of that hole, and a short bar will run to there, then the long bar will run here, as you can see. So I'm going to put the bolt in here, tighten up the lock nuts so that that length is sort of preserved, and then I'll just pop the shorter steering bar underneath so that the two nuts can be done up, and then that's more done and out of the way. I'm just hoping that this doesn't get in the way of putting the steering column up and through, but I think I'll be okay just by waving this around, but we'll see once that arrives. Get that ordered soon enough. Something else that I want to draw your attention to is probably going to be the main focus for this video, is making the hinges for the windscreen, as I feel that's really been a bit neglected. So, as I discovered, there is going to be a piece of angle iron that'll go on the vertical here of that sort of front panel at the top of the bulkhead. And so it's going to be about 10 centimeters. This is 200 millimeters of angle iron, so cut that in half, and then I'm going to make templates out of this piece of mild steel, which is lovely and thick. I think off the top of my head it's 1.5 millimeters, maybe 2. Draw out the templates, cut the shapes, and then weld it onto this. It's probably pretty much the only welding I'm really going to do in this project. I feel like I need to make something, and then it's going to be painted silver, and then I'll mount it all up, and then I'll drill the holes to make sure that the windscreen, which, sorry for the mess of my garage, is stored over there, so that can be out of the way. Also, still waiting to put in my order for the steering column and the steering wheel, and that'll be really ready for me then to flip it back the correct way up, although I do feel it's quite safe at the minute like this, so maybe keep it like that for a little bit longer. Finance has been otherwise directed towards the axle on the full-size Land Rover. That's why it's been a little bit of delay. But let's get on with that. And my apologies if this video seems a little bit disjointed, but got some very exciting delivery from Toylander this morning. He's given a little bit of money recently, so went ahead and purchased what's inside this box. So who doesn't like a little bit of an unboxing video? I've never done a proper unboxing video, but here, let's give it a try live. First things first. Ooh, I think I know what that is. We'll unwrap that in a little second. Been very excited about that particular item. Take this out, and then suggestion as to what's in the bubble wrap. Nope, not particularly well packed there, or maybe a slightly violent delivery man. Any guesses? Braking system, and just look how nicely that's made. Really well welded. It's just far better than I would ever be able to create. So obviously haven't put it together. You're seeing a live unboxing here, but from what I can tell, those sort of hinge and rub against the rear wheels. So major part of the braking system. Put that back. Down here we have a steering column. How cool is that? That acts to push against the steering rods, which are up here at the front, sorry, slightly hidden by the bonnet. And that bracket goes against the bulkhead. Again, beautifully made, very nice Toylander. Set that down there. Back in here, what else is this? I think that is the foot pedal, also for the braking system, obviously. Again, really nicely made, laser cut, perfect, love it. Set that back down there. And various fixtures and fittings here for the braking system as well. Now, a little bit of an admission for the braking system, just before I open this, is these two little holes. So there's a hole here, and there's a hole here. Now, if I can turn the camera around, so the hole here is about halfway down the slot, and this one is a bit further up. Probably doesn't show up that well on the camera. This hole here has actually been drilled in the wrong place. Thankfully it wasn't this one, because I'm able to put the drill in from the inside, drill it out in the new position, because there will be a crossbar goes across here, whereby you can pull on the handbrake and it'll actuate the whole mechanism. So this is in the wrong place, I'm going to have to put a new one up here. Don't really know how that happened, but it's important that it gets picked up now and resolved. So let's just unwrap this little item here, which I'm very excited about, and it's actually going to really start looking like a vehicle now. And you all ready for this? Ta-da! A very beautiful steering wheel, really nicely made, seems to be powder coated in a nice satin. I think it looks really, really well. I'm really glad I bought this rather than trying to make it by myself. Oh, it's like Christmas morning whenever these bits and pieces arrive from Toylander, but this is the pièce de résistance. So, this obviously won't be fitted for a little while, so I'm going to have to hang it up or put it up somewhere out of the way. And why not hang it between those two? Morris Minor Land Rover and Toylander. All pretty cool. Don't actually have any hooks in the wall, but that would be pretty neat anyway. Maybe buy a spare for down the line. So let's get on with things, getting these bits painted and fitted. And I'm still waiting on paint. This video is going to be made over a number of weeks, and I'm still waiting on paint to get made. Apparently social distancing cannot happen within a paint booth for mixing aerosols, and that's why I cannot get aerosols made of the correct RAL code for this. Hugely annoying, but I suppose we have to put safety ahead of making children's toys. Let's get on with this bit. And here we have the various braking components and the steering components laid out for painting. I'm sure you don't need to see yet another episode full of coating, painting, sanding, cleaning and all the various bits and pieces. We've done quite a lot of that throughout this series, so the reason these are going black is because quite a few of these bits are quite obvious, mainly the steering column, brake pedal, handbrake, most other bits are hidden underneath, but I had the black out, so I decided to go ahead. The axles I think will take a bit more wear and tear, that's why they were done with hammerite, and I only had silver, and I haven't actually got any more black hammerite since, other than the brush on stuff, but the aerosol will give a really nice finish for those items that are quite obviously in view. So waiting for these to dry, then I'll flip them all over, do the other side, and then do the lacquer. We have a lovely sunny day here now in Northern Ireland. The paint is drying really nice and quickly, so making good progress today. And so once again, with the help of Mrs. Resto-Saga, we have turned the Toylander one back up the right way, and it's nice to see it up this way again rather than looking at the slightly less tidy underside. My little table's probably coming towards the end of its use. I'm probably soon going to put it down on axle stands and maybe put an old sock or something over for these axle stands and put them underneath the stub axles so that the Toylander can, yes, it'll have to sit a bit lower, but it'll allow me to be able to get underneath it to work, to put in the brakes and generally put in wiring and so on, other things that are going to run underneath the Toylander. So it won't be just as useful from a working height point of view, but I've always been a little bit nervous of such a heavy object on a fairly flimsy camping table. So as you can see, I have put the steering column, the two parts in, it's just resting against the steering gear underneath. I'll take it round, take the camera around here so you can see. I've just rested it against there because this is the main steering rod here that it's going to work on. So I'm going to bolt this together, and then there's little clamp bolts on there to make sure that this stays fairly stable. As you can see, this is why I wanted larger washers in here, and I have bought them and they've arrived, so I'm going to fit those now also, because it's better to spread the load over a bigger piece of wood. It's less likely to pull through that way. At the minute it nearly always feels like one step forward, two steps back, but I've taken the rear seating area out. Two reasons: allow me to drill the correct hole for the braking system, and also to attach the little grill sections in behind the vent holes, which I have been meaning to do for a number of months now. So I'm going to have to go back through the plans and work out where to drill this hole from the inside out, so that there's a little crossbar that will run from that hole to here, and that is to do with the handbrake system. I think that's really the first stage I should get to before we start fitting the brakes. Annoyingly started into fitting the steering column, and ta-da, look, the steering wheel's in. Doesn't it look good? Didn't have to hang it on the wall. But I found there's a little bracket, and that's out there getting painted right now. So more painting, but hopefully that's a last little bracket to get done for the steering system. And a little bit further on again, you can see I have these little vent covers screwed in, and from the outside I think they look pretty smart. You'll also notice I have the handbrake lever in. That was really cool. Now I moved the hole down, having compared it with the other side, and it seems to be moving quite nicely. It's just sitting on the table on the other side, and all those little nuts are there to, first of all, tension the threaded bar, and also to make sure the lever is in the center of the hole here. So a little bit more progress. The paint is just about to dry on the steering clamp, so we'll get that fitted up, and then we'll get a steering wheel as well. So progress in the brakes and steering today. Let's get on with that. And not a whole lot of time later, well, when I say not a whole lot of time, I've had a bit of a disjointed shift pattern this week, so it is another day later in the week. We have a fully working and all tightened up steering system. So steering wheel mounted in the center position. As you can see, the stub axle there's 90 degrees to the bodywork. It sits very nicely, sort of like a three-pointed star there. These two fittings have been going in. It's a little bit annoying that they're odd, but this one is a blind ending, so it's a coarse-headed coach bolt nearly, and this is threaded and has a nut on the other end. That thread's far too long, so that'll need trimmed. And if you follow the steering column down, it goes down through that little hole. Thank goodness it was all lined up. And it comes down to here, where it's attached to these two screws. This one goes through the plywood and a batten. This one just goes through the plywood, so this one's a different length. Comes down to here, bit of grease in the steering column, and I've tightened up all these bolts here, having got all the alignment correct. The swing action of the axle still works, and if I reach up here and turn the steering wheel, we have steering, hooray! Now, the front axle is meant to act as a bump stop or a steering stop according to the manual, but I just want maybe put a little bit of, I don't know, sort of rubberized tape along here, because I didn't really want to scratch in all the paint. And these nuts down here still need tightened up, plus I need a little bit of grease in here, but otherwise very pleased with all that work up until now. As you can see, I've also replaced these washers with some more substantial penny washers. In fact, it'd be a very big penny if it was that size. I think that's 40mm, but it really spread the load over the ply rather than a little smaller washer. And apart from anything, it hides the splintered wood from the drilling. Handbrake I've already spoken about, so really the next video is going to be looking at the full fitting of the brake system, which does involve putting the Toylander down on 4 axle stands, but I wanted to get the steering done first. So I know I started the video talking about the windscreen, but I've actually done the steering, and then I'll do the brakes. So yes, I know it's all a bit disjointed, but that's the way sometimes these things go, as I'm sure you'll appreciate if you work on your own vehicles or projects at home. So once again, thanks very much for watching the episode here on the Toylander 1 this week. This week we've covered the steering and started on the brake system as well. In future episodes we'll be finishing off the brake system and we'll be buying the wheels and putting them on, but I need to gather some capital before I can do that. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give the like button a tick, fire me a comment down below. I answer all your questions, queries, compliments, even criticism if it's constructive. I welcome it. Consider following me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm active across all those platforms, and I've recently just started a Patreon account as well. If you wish to contribute to the channel, that would be very much appreciated too. So you can look me up on www.patreon.com/RestlessSaga, and I'll put that link in the description down below. Also, next week, for those of you who've watched on to the end, there's going to be a big announcement on the fleet. So I'd encourage you to hit the subscribe button so you can stay tuned as to what's coming very soon next week. So once again, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you then.